We're live again in high G's. All right then. Tonight, people, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce a friend of mine. Oh, I've known him for over 20 years. And turns out after we met, we found out that we had quite quickly, we had a number of things in common, which is why I'm quite excited, because one of the big things that we had in common was music. One major artist in particular, before anything else, we found, and the reason that this was so special was that it's an artist that I love and most of my other friends absolutely detest. So it was really refreshing to meet somebody who loved this artist as much as I did as well. A little hint, but there we go. So yeah, the other thing we had in common was we were both pretty pish at football. He'll not thank me for that. He was better than he's definitely better than me. Most definitely better than me. In fact, this person invited me along at the request of another one of our mutual friends to come and play a game for the station football team that we met back in the RAF days. Suffice to say, I only appeared for that team once, and that was the end of a very short-lived career for the High Wycombe. I think second team maybe at the time. Anyway, without further ado, he's still here, and he had threatened about 2 minutes ago to, when I bigged him up and given him his introduction, that I brought him into the stream, that he just wouldn't be there. That's never happened, not yet. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please give a big warm welcome to my guest this evening on the JFDI podcast. It is Neil Wilkinson. Neil, welcome. Good evening.
Thank you, mate. Good evening, everybody.
How you doing? You good?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, surviving another lockdown in Belgium, but it is what it is.
You're good. Was that fair? You were definitely better at me. But you were definitely better than I was at football.
I was the captain of the victorious RAF High Wycombe second team, so I'd like to think I was better than you. But then I remember one game in the inter-section league that we used to have on the AstroTurf where I ended up playing in goal for some reason, and you lobbed me from about 30 yards. I still can't remember whether you were playing on the same team as me and it was an own goal, but you did it. Well done.
It wasn't. I remember that. I do. I think I might have come and give you a big hug after I scored.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, as if I wasn't embarrassed enough. Yeah.
We've got Mr. Blades is on.
He's a yellow, mate.
He's there. He goes straight at it. He's asking if you've nicked his t-shirt.
Are you asking me or are you asking Pinky?
I'm assuming he's asking you. I don't think that he's got a Embrace t-shirt. Although I might have
thought so.
I might have thought
so. His good taste in music didn't stretch to that, did it? Davy Large.
Yeah. There you go. He said last time he saw you was in Whitehall. Good evening.
It was when I think he was either on duty or just coming off duty over at number 10 when I was in MOD. Yeah, it was a while ago. That.
How long ago would that be?
2 years. God, I've been here 3 years, so at least 4 years ago, maybe 5.
Crikey.
Yeah.
There we go.
Always forgot how tall he was.
Yeah, he's huge.
Big bloke car, Dave.
He's
large by name, large by nature.
Affectionately known in this house as Big Dave.
I can't understand why he's got that name.
Yeah. I think he asked us to call him it. I'm not sure why.
No. It's a little bit like Titch, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we get into the tunes?
Go on then.
You know, when you sent me these through, there's only one, and it's the first one.
Yeah.
That I didn't know so well. I knew it.
Yeah.
But all of the rest of them, I was like, oh, I can't wait to put that on. I can't wait to talk about this. but the first one is the only one that, and I kind of guess it was that at a certain time. I wasn't like a massive fan.
You weren't old enough, mate.
No, I think I was maybe just kind of, they were kicking around. Anyway, I'll let you explain, because your first tune's Dog Eat Dog by Adam and the Ants. Yes?
Yeah. Well, it was amazing times for music. Anybody that's as old as I am, not many of you probably, there was a real, I was too young for punk, I was born in 1967. So really, yeah. So we're talking 1980, and Dog Eat Dog came out, and it was just like, that is mental. That was the drums, just Adam Ant as a person was incredible. I'd never seen anything like it. Because I was too young for like David Bowie and all that early 70s glam rock, which I guess he was a little bit like, but in a punk way. But it was just like, this is like music that I've never heard before. And I fell in love with the Kings of the Wild Frontier album. And I think that really sparked my interest in music. There was a lot happening at the beginning of the 80s. I was, 13. I was doing everything a 13-year-old boy was. I was a swimmer, played football, listening to music all the time. And it was at the end of the 70s that you had a lot of punk, but the radio wasn't playing it a lot. It was all like, I don't know, soft rock, if you like. But then the 80s just exploded. You had Adam and the Ants, you had all the new romantic stuff. Yeah, it's just a brilliant time. It's what music's like, mate. We've spoken about this so many times over a beer.
Yeah.
It transports you to places. I mean, and Blazy said it last week about could have been millions of songs he'd chosen. And at the time when he was saying it, I was like, millions is a bit of an exaggeration. But I mean, the more you think about it, our love of Prince that you were talking about, I haven't chosen one of his songs, and I have no idea why. I'm wearing an Oasis t-shirt. I haven't chosen one of their songs. Arctic Monkeys are probably my favourite band. I haven't chosen one of their songs.
Yeah.
Just crazy, But Dog Eat Dog was just a revelation to me. It was just a totally different sound from anything that was out at the time, and it blew my mind.
Did it influence you in any? Did any of their other influences sort of like slip into your life at that time?
What, like wearing a pirate jacket or anything like that? Do you mean
anything?
No, not really. I think it just it just ignited my. I liked music, but it ignited my passion for music.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started buying. There was only vinyl then and tapes, but couldn't be bothered with those. Other than mixtapes, everybody did that. But no, I mean, I was like I remember just at school, I was close enough to the town to go down to Boots and get like all the cheap records that had fallen out of the charts the week before and stuff like that. And it just couldn't stop buying music after that. Every spare penny I had.
It's interesting, isn't it, that there are those bands that people remember for defining an era or just being different, or being the band that sort of almost kick-started something new, that weren't afraid to be different, that weren't afraid to just kind of like tread their own path. And we've spoken a lot with other guests about this as well.
Oh, absolutely, mate. I mean, if I'm honest, it was one album, because then it all went a bit mainstream and a bit poppy, with Prince Charming and stuff like that. But that Kings of the Wild Frontier album was just phenomenal. Not a bad track on it. Even Jolly Roger I can put up with, if you don't know that. I'm not going to sing it.
I do know the album. Dave's saying there, he's saying first LP I ever bought was Kings of the Wild Frontier.
There you go. I knew you were a man of taste, Dave.
Yeah, look, Mr. Manning's on tonight. Good evening, Steve.
Exactly.
Ant Music.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I remember most was all of this malarkey.
Yeah, but that was afterwards. That was the Prince Charming kind of era.
Was it?
Yeah. But that Kings of the Wild Frontier album, it was just like, you know, I mean, I went to see him live as well, which was incredible. You know, I mean, that you can imagine with somebody like Adamant, it was it was more of a show than anything that was going on at the time. You know, it was like, pains me to say it, but like the Take That of the day where it was a stage set, you know, it was almost like going to a pantomime.
Yeah.
But he was amazing live, you know, and just charisma. But then I saw him, God, I can't remember. There was when I was at MOD and you got the tickets for troops. There was a big concert in Hyde Park as the Barclaycard Summertime, it's called. There are other credit cards available as well, actually. He was like one of the first acts on, you know, but in his mind, he is still the biggest artist in the world.
Yeah.
So like he was on and he was playing his stuff and he was good, but like nobody was really taking any notice of him, and he went apeshit.
Oh, really?
He was like, you know, he was almost like, don't you know who I am? I'm the biggest artist in the world. Like, mate, all right. I know you've had your mental issues, but you're not. But you were. He was to me at that time.
Yeah, now I'm going to say was he not one of these He had some real. Did he not have some real serious mental health issues?
I think didn't he get arrested outside of a bar or cafe in London with a bloody pistol or something? Yeah, I think he had massive problems at one stage, mate.
Yeah.
Haven't we all?
Well, I mean, and the stuff I think with people that are in the public eye so much as well. I mean, there's so many of them for so many different reasons, and I think that, you know, one of the things I never ever forget the sort of Jason, what's his name, the boy Hawkins, from The Darkness.
I thought you were talking about Stephen Hawkins.
No, I think that's slightly different. What's his name?
I did see something on my timeline, and he must have died. I don't know, around this time, whichever year he died, and he's at the bottom of the stairway to heaven in his wheelchair, and he's just looking at the camera saying "bugger." Anyway, back to the other Hawkins.
The Darkness guy, but it's the same as like you say with Adamant there on the stage, giving it the big "Don't you know who I am?" And I think that's where a lot of the problems with you know, people that have, you know, maybe not overnight, they worked very, very hard for success, they love it, they thrive on it, and then when it's not there any longer, it's very, very hard to cope once it's been removed.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think it's
Justin, that's it. Thank you, Stephen. Justin Hawkins, and thank you, Mo. Oh crikey, Karen's keeping it right. As is Mo. As is Stephen Manning. As is Dave Large. Yeah, all right, guys. Well, okay, I didn't know.
Fancy us not remember the lead singer of the Darkness, eh?
But the irony being, and I didn't mean to kind of bring you on to the Darkness, but I mean, how ironic now that after, again, a band with a great debut album, you know, went to obscurity, and now, all these years later, the thing that they're most, you know, well known for is a Christmas song where letting the bells end.
Which some people still don't get.
I know.
Brilliant.
Oh.
You're right, though. I mean, it must be. I guess it's like footballers, pop stars. You know, they've got a short shelf life. Most of them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it must be hard. Even even footballers who get injured. You know, we take it to that extent. Even when you can't play for a while, it must be devastating mentally.
Yeah. exactly.
luckily we always had the RAF to lean on, didn't we?
Well, this is it. It's what everybody that's been on here who's talked about leaving, who's talked about.
What do you call a man with a small dick?
Shall we indulge him? Go on then.
Go on.
Go on,
Go on then,
Bladesy.
Bladesy.
Good evening. Good evening, Bob. How you doing, mate? Oh, he's not. Oh, he's going to keep his hand. Yeah,
he's being a small dick.
Yeah. What do you call a man with a? What do you call a man with a small dick? I don't know, Bladesy.
We still don't know.
No, that's what I was saying. Is that the answer, Bladesy?
Anyway, moving on.
Anyway, yes, moving on. So your next two songs, this is great because it's the first. I think it's the first time we've kind of got like a double header. Not quite the same artist, but the next song had me bouncing this evening. And so interesting to hear the story behind A Town Called Malice by The Jam. I mean, it's a tune, right?
I mean, again, I was a bit too young. Shouldn't have been a bit too young, really. I mean, it depends on what age you get into your music, but I think really straight after Adam and the Ants, and like I say, that was like, for me, the explosion in music. I became aware of The Jam and just absolutely fell in love with The Jam.
Yeah.
And then have been with Paul Weller in his various guises ever since. Just something very cool about the guy. He doesn't, even in punk terms, it wasn't punk, not when you compare it to the other, even more mainstream punk bands like The Clash, I guess.
Yeah.
It was very straight to the point. It was very talking about their life, because I mean, they all grew up in the same place. But just, A Town Called Malice was a pinnacle for most, I guess, but it could have been any Jam song, if I'm honest.
Right.
And I saw him. He came on stage with Noel Gallagher at, where was it? Brixton Academy. And they did A Town Called Malice, and it was just amazing to see. When would that have been? 2016, 2017, maybe. And to see, a song from 1981, 1982, and the crowd going mental.
Yeah.
And there were kids who weren't even born.
Yeah.
A Noel Gallagher gig. So it was very Oasis-centric, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And I had the pleasure of meeting him once, and he is just whatever fame does to some people, it has done nothing to him. It's a little bit strange because we'd walked down the length of Portobello Road. The market was on that day, but pretty quiet. It was in the summer, middle of the week. And me, my wife and my daughter, we were just having a sandwich at the far end of the road. And we got up to walk away, and in between where we were and where he was stood was this public toilet. So all the time that we'd been sat having the sandwich, Hayley could see him. I couldn't because of where I was sat. And he was fucking 10 feet away from me. So we started off walking down the road, and I just said to Hayley and Georgia, I've got to go and speak to him. You just don't get the chance.
Yeah.
And went over, chatted to him for about 5 minutes. He couldn't have been nicer. And he was just waiting for somebody. And when they turned up, he said, sorry, mate, I could talk to you all day, but I've got to go. And we spoke about the Jam. We spoke about the Style Council. We spoke about his solo career. Gentleman.
Very cool guy.
What a cool guy.
Yeah.
Still cool. Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those, when you think of the longevity of a career like that, bloody hell. And just the sheer massive work he's done, and still spitting out the albums to the day, and genius.
So you just had a chat with him as opposed to like fanboying on him.
It was really hard not to fanboy on him. Bloody hell! Well, I mean, you saw the photos of me with a couple of the guys from a group who we're going to talk about probably towards the end of this.
Yeah.
When you admire somebody's music so much and you never ever think you're going to meet them, I don't think you know how you're going to react when you do.
Yeah.
And I like to think I was pretty cool, but that's not the story that Haley and Georgia would tell. So, yeah, I was cool, but yeah, I was probably the biggest fanboy in the world. What can you do?
I know. He's saying that's why he's had the longevity. Yeah, grounded. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think it's following on from what we're saying about what does happen to some people. It's no wonder. But I also think it kind of. Would you agree that it kind of leaks into the music that people release? So when a band, become massive, unless and it's hard to kind of stay grounded, I guess. But if they don't, the delusions, it can leak into the music as well. When you think that
which is strange, because I think when obviously from the point of view of when you think about the Jam's, definitely the final album, it was kind of going towards the Style Council in its style in a way. But from his point of view, he knew that was going to be the last Jam album. The other two didn't, but poor them. But he obviously had this ability to know when he'd taken what he was doing, say it to, and then that was it. He just walk away, and he did the same with the Style Council.
Yeah,
and to still be around, incredible.
Yeah, like you said, I think it takes something to kind of know, right? Okay, it's run its course. It's time to move on. Time to do something new.
It's like Robbie Williams leaving Take That.
Yeah. Oh, we're
Not really.
It's not really. Not really. Although that didn't half cause some fuss. I remember that at the time, and that was ridiculous how people reacted to that. I think that was the first time I'd ever seen a reaction of that magnitude, where people were like,
losing it
completely, absolutely crazy. Yeah. That was just me.
And me, I just didn't tell you.
No, not really.
But I did have the pleasure of seeing Take That just after Robbie had left. Oh, excuse me. I had to go and see Take That so I could steward the England games at Euro '96. But we won't talk about a particularly sunny Saturday in June of Euro '96, will we, Graham?
I'm not going to swear,
No.
but no, we'll not talk about that.
No.
Ironically, I watched the Gaza, the Gascoigne documentary about 2 weeks ago, I loved him. Loved him as a player. An absolute genius. And I watched it, and he's the only, I have to say, right, I know I just said we won't talk about that, but do you know what? It's the only goal that an Englishman scores against England that I don't mind watching it back. I genuinely don't, because the guy, an absolute genius.
Well, I'll just touch on this quickly, because this isn't a football show. We can make it one if you want. But
I've actually, go on, touch on it, because I kind of thought we might get onto football here.
So I met him before I came out to Brussels, we had to move some stuff out of the flat in MOD up to our house in Lincolnshire. Did a really early start on the road, and can't remember which service station it was. It was quite a small one on the A1. And we got to the breakfast counter. It was about 7:30 in the morning. And 2 in front of me is Gascoigne. And I'm thinking, one, what's he doing up at this time of the morning? But he's showing everybody his stomach because he's obviously been doing some kind of training and he's got his abs out. And he's telling anybody who'll listen about he's the fittest person in the world now. But just a lovely guy. He's just a daft Geordie at the end of the day. And he was a lovely bloke. And he was talking to anybody who'd go up to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But again, going back to what we talked about, when you can't do the thing you love anymore, look at the effect it had on him.
I know, and that's why what was quite sad. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that documentary. That it's a fairly recent one because
is it on Belgian TV?
No,
No.
No, I think I'm pretty sure it was an Amazon Prime one.
All right. Yeah, well, the joys of Brexit. Let's not talk about it too much. But joys of Brexit and my Amazon Fire Stick.
Okay. We need to sort you out of a VPN, mate.
Yeah, no, I'm not that technologically gifted, mate.
Well, look, seeing as we've both got a drink.
Yes.
Right, and so I'd say cheers.
Cheers to you.
Cheers. And we're talking about football. Here's a question for you.
Go on.
When I was writing this down, I was going to make it musical, but I kind of figured we might get on to football. So I've actually written down here. You could go for a drink with 3 footballers, dead or alive.
Yeah.
Who are they? 3 footballers from any era, dead or alive. Who'd you go for a beer with?
As an Englishman, I've got to go for a drink with Bobby Moore. Sir Bobby. Just a legend.
Yeah.
Don't know whether you saw that mini series about him. I mean, everybody's a little bit tainted, even if you think they aren't. But yeah, you've got to, as an Englishman, you've got to ask the only England captain who's won the world, who's won the World Cup, what that felt like. Again, around the time where I was getting into music, I was a Liverpool fan. Still am, because I can't obviously admit to being a Grimsby Town fan. A hero was Kenny Dalglish. Yeah. And, just for the transition from player to player manager to be as successful as he was. And then even poignantly on today, the what are we, 32nd anniversary of Hillsborough, the role he played in all of the funerals after that as the manager at the time. Yeah, special guy. God, I never thought I'd have a Scotsman in my 3, but there you go. The third one. I mean, let's just go present day, and if I could split Messi and Ronaldo down the middle, both incredible. You speak to any football fan, they'll have a reason for it being Messi or Ronaldo. I would probably err on the side of Ronaldo because he's done it. He's done it in England. He's done it in Spain. He's done it in Italy. Even doing it in Italy at this age, and not my age, obviously, but just an incredible footballer, incredible athlete. Just to hear how you keep yourself motivated after winning everything he's won. Yeah. Because that's what sets him aside from Messi. Ronaldo influences his national team like Messi can't.
Yeah.
And Messi's only ever really done it at one club. So it's a really interesting comparison. Both geniuses. Yeah. So if you'd indulge me and allow me to have, what can we call him? Ron Messi.
Ron Messi.
And I'll have him there as well.
Or Messaldo.
Messaldo, that sounds better, really, doesn't it? Yeah.
Did you ever do that that Brazilian name generator that they had about
It's easy
well?
for you to say.
Yeah. I
No, I didn't see that.
did you not see it? I came out with
No.
Pinkertino. I quite liked that.
Could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been. Right, let's go back to music.
Yes, let's.
And go back to Mr. Weller
Yeah,
for your third song
yeah,
from his solo career
yeah.
and Broken Stones. A
Yeah, well,
great,
this really has got a story, and it's very associated with the Scopy world. Actually, I'm sure some of you listening in will know Chris Waller really well,
oh
and
yeah,
I grew up with Chris, best mates from a very young age. Joined the Air Force 2 weeks apart. He obviously joined a lesser trade to mine. Perfect. Um, uh, I spoke to Chris so many times, even after he'd done his trade training, he would always, I'm not going to stay in. I think he's still in now. Am I wrong? I think,
yeah, he is. Yeah, he's still in.
Well, that's Chris. He was always going to do something different with his life, but there he is. Well, the link to Chris.
He's done very, very well as well.
Yeah, he's done really well. Yeah. Yeah, so the link to Broken Stones, Paul Weller, is Chris's brother Mike, who died of leukemia when he was 24, and he was a real, you come across these human beings who light up a room. Mike was one of these people, and it destroyed Chris for some time, to be honest with you, because it's very hard for anybody to lose somebody that's close to them, but to lose your youngest brother, as he did with Mike, hard times. It was hard times for anybody who knew him, but for a brother to lose, and goes without saying, his mum and dad as well. The funeral was difficult, really packed cemetery in Grimsby, officiated by by Mike's uncle, by Chris's uncle. He was a vicar in Scunthorpe, and I don't talk about this too much, but my whatever religious feelings I had died that day when a vicar said, I don't know why on some people would tell you that God had a better plan for him, but I don't believe that. And I thought, well, if you don't believe it, mate, that's me out. That's me gone as well. And yeah, that's Broken Stones by Paul Weller. It was played right at the very end. 200 people in a church slash cemetery bawling their eyes out. So it always brings back memories, not bad memories, because over the years I think you move on from that. It just brings back Mike's face, always with a smile on it, and special song.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that your memories of the guy are of him lighting up a room with a smile on his face, and you know what? Part of the reason that I'm doing these is kind of for this very reason that I mean, none of us are getting any younger, right?
Not the truth,
but at the same time, and whilst there are people that have been on that have spoken about, people that we've lost. I mean, certainly, like you talk about in the Scopy, certainly, across Scopy trade used to be massive, and we've lost more than more than our fair share. But like I say, we're not getting any older, we're not getting any younger, and people get older, and people are, we're losing people as we get older. And one of the reasons that I kind of started a lot of these reconnections was so that people, we met at a time in our life where we were, we were at an age, and for the people that I met earlier on, but we were at an age where, we were it was formative years, really, where we were kind of just, going really from being boys to men. And
Yeah.
those years are important. And those years, I always look back on very fondly. And as it turns out, in doing more of this, it's meant the same to other people. And you coming on and telling this story and sharing that song, perhaps Chris will listen and have a little bit of a smile on his face about his brother. And the fact that we're telling the story, we need to do more of that, share more of these stories, because this is how these people that we've lost, it's how their memory stays alive.
Absolutely, mate. Well, I mean, let's talk about somebody who most of the people will know, somebody who walked into a room and lit it up in CJ.
CJ, yeah.
What a sad loss.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him for years, but when I heard about it, I couldn't believe it, and life's too short, mate. You never know what's around the corner, do you?
No, it's exactly. And that's why I'm not afraid to kind of talk about these things. I think that like a lot of things that we're kind of taught or sort of directed towards when we joined the military, there were certain things that you were very much encouraged not to talk about certain things, and it was just like, get on with it, crack on. And it's like, and I think to a certain extent that you can only bottle so much up.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you for sharing the memory of I didn't know that. No, I didn't. So there you go.
I mean, I don't. I think I'm not sure where Chris was at the time, whether he was at Fylingdales or up at Buchan when it happened. Difficult time for everybody, mate.
Yeah.
But I've never managed to get to one because it's the joys of being in the Air Force and where you're stationed. But every year on the anniversary of his death, people get together and go to the same pub that we all used to go drinking in sunny Cleethorpes. And when I'm back in the UK, I hope to join them this year. But it's I think it's really important to keep the memories alive. That's, let's say. Yeah. And obviously something I've said has woken Siri up. So here he goes. Shut up.
So I've got a question that I was going to save until the next song, but actually, I'm going to ask you it now because it moves us into your next choice beautifully. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this question now, which is, who are the three people that have been most influential in your life?
Oh, bloody hell. Oh, that was a question I wasn't expecting.
You see, I do that sometimes, though.
Can we move on and I'll think about it, and can we come back to that one?
Well, I tell you what, I'll tell you. Whilst you think about it, yeah, we can. Yeah. We can even, if you want. I threw one of these questions at Bladesy last week.
I know you did,
and it just made me laugh. It just made me laugh that he didn't think he'd learned anything at all from being in the RAF. So okay, so let me ask you.
To have some friends, mate. Sorry.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely, Dave. Yes. So yeah, we can come back to that question. So let me, whilst we're talking about absent friends, whilst we're talking about the RAF, this one might be slightly easier for you before we move on to your next song.
Only slightly easier. Can you make it a lot easier?
I'll make it a lot. Yeah, I will. I'll make it a lot easier. All right. What's been your favourite rank and your favourite posting?
Oh,
is that not any easier?
Well, I've been in a long time, mate. Jesus. If I think about the most rewarding, it was when I first got promoted to sergeant and I was senior NCO P1 at Halton. And it was a strange place. It made me realise how old I was when I was charging people who weren't born when I joined the RAF. Let's put it that way. That was not a great moment, but it was an amazing experience. You know, you were dealing with like 400 charges a year. Luckily, there was no scopies there. It had already been double that.
You never had to charge me. Luckily, I think I'd gone through that phase by the time we met.
I don't know. I'm sure there were moments, mate, but we won't go into that.
We shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that was. There's been some great tours. You know, I mean, in the last 10 years, I've continually worked for in 4-star outer offices. It's incredible just the insight it gives you into the world. You know, when you're on an RAF, normal RAF camp, it's very centered on what that RAF camp does.
Yeah.
And you don't really understand or care about the bigger picture. So that strategic view is fascinating. But it's a false world. It's a totally different world, and it's hard to explain it really. But so I'd definitely go back to Halton and learned a lot. It was a great job as a sergeant, which led to me going to Paris, where I met my wife. You know, so that was that few years. Halton was the best job. Paris was probably the best location. You know, and the job was crap, to be fair. But hey, I was living in Paris, so it was. Yeah. I would. You know, one job, one location.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That wasn't too hard.
It wasn't too hard. It made me think though.
Well, I mean that's kind of that's kind of what
it's always, yeah.
I know. Yeah, but got some comments here. Just kind of go right. I love this. Stephen, he said there, when we are young, you feel indestructible. When you get older, you learn that we're not, normally through experience and unfortunately loss. Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Very true.
Yeah. Sadly so.
Dave's reminding you that you were in Baghdad when they were in their dad's bag. I think he's talking about the youngsters.
Well, he must have been talking about somebody else. I've never been to Baghdad.
No, I think he's referring to your stint at Halton with the people that you were charging that weren't born when you joined the RAF.
Very true. Yeah, thanks, Dave.
As I read that back. Yes, indeed. Okay, next song, right?
Yeah.
Next song. Have you thought about those three people yet?
No, I'm trying to kick that into the long grass and hoping you don't bring it up again.
Even if it's one. All right, next song's Robbie Williams, Angels.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke about this quickly before we came on air, mate, but I mean, let's face it, he's a bit of a dick. But when
that's what you call Angels, a small dick. Robbie.
Yes. He still hasn't answered, has he?
No, he still hasn't answered.
But I just started working in the bunker, so we'd just been introduced to the mad world of scopies, and you know, there was Jim Stevenson, there was Bladesy, there was Dan Pierce, Dave Large, and there was a certain Corporals Club at High Wycombe, and I just remember vividly like it's happening just away from me now, us being 5 feet away from the bar in a big huddle, just singing it at the top of our voices. And when you think about the song, I mean, yeah, it's a powerful anthem, I guess. It's not the best song in the world, but at that time, in that place, it was amazing, and it was my my first song at my wedding with Hayley, as you know. I don't know why that was obviously no fun to take that I'd admit. But yeah, I mean, he had some classic tunes, to be honest. I can admit that. But yeah, Angels, I think, struck a chord with a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily like him as an artist.
And I think the other thing that we must consider is that there was an awful lot of alcohol consumed in the Corporal's Pub, and people quite regularly not only would huddle and sing that song, but at the points when karaoke was be cracked out, everybody thought that they could top Robbie. Everyone thought that they could do Angels on karaoke. And everybody watching, don't tell me that you've not done it at some point. Everybody has gone on and said, I'm going to smash Angels out the park.
Hey, it's true. True story.
It is. It's true. And but that's the thing. It's one of those songs, and perhaps because of, where you were at the time, and everybody kind of remembers, but it's one of those songs. When I played it tonight as I was getting ready, you just can't help but blast it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so when I just as an aside to the story and why it ended up being mine and Hayley's first dance at a wedding was we just got together, and life as it was, we actually moved in with each other quite quickly in Paris, and then she had a holiday booked that she went on. So while she was away, I phoned her and sang the whole of Angels down the phone to her, that she didn't actually get until she got back to Paris, because she didn't want to switch her phone on in Tunisia or wherever she'd gone, because those were the days where you got ripped off with call charges and stuff. So yeah, that's the aside, and that's why it became our song. I'm not going to sing it.
Well, you sure?
No.
Right. Okay. So here's one for you.
Yeah.
Oh, look, Stephen knows how to compliment me. Is that the young Robbie who's a bit of a dick? Is that what you're saying? That's a bit of a dick, Stephen.
The drug-addled Robbie.
I'm clean as pure as the dribble these days.
I mean, in looks, mate. I mean, yeah. I mean, okay. You're obviously not got an ounce of fat on you anymore, but.
Oh dear! Oh, look, there's always one. Bob, I remember that. I remember. I can't remember who started that. I think it might have been Jed Clowry when we were at Neatzed, that he said that I looked like Robbie Coltrane, and I was like, but he's massive, and they were like, well, somebody said it recently. They were like, oh yeah, you've lost a load of weight, Mr. Pinkster. Yeah, you look like a skinny Robbie Coltrane. That was Gary Barlow.
There is one addition to right, yeah. There is one addition to the Angels story, though. I many years before the first time I went down the Falklands, I had the joy of going up to Byron Heights on a dining in night. So obviously this is linking again to my my on-off affair with Scopies.
On-off?
Mainly on. So the first time I was down the Falklands, went up to Byron Heights for a dining in night, which obviously afterwards descended into chaos, as it did at Byron Heights. And my best man, who Spike,
yeah,
we were both up at Byron Heights. We were both down at Mount Pleasant at the same time. We got involved in the Byron Olympics. And obviously, this was hilarious for the Byron boys. Not so hilarious for people who didn't have a fucking clue what were going on. So like the Olympic sit up into somebody's butt crack was a joy. all ending up with obviously the good old Byron biscuit, which just the smell of it still, and the reason it ended up with Angels was I went down there to be the OC admin wing in the year 2000, and I had the honour of being the QM for all of my tour. Special days, but there was a few renditions at God knows what time of the morning of Angels, as you can imagine. Similar huddles while singing Byron Boys Are on the Piss Again.
Crazy place, the Falklands.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I mean, we won't talk about Mount Kent not being a mountain site and all that, obviously, because that's for a different time.
Well, so here's a question for you, based on those kind of things, and we could sit here all night and talk about ridiculous stories about Byron Biscuits and Olympics and stupid things, and even probably a tale or two about the Corporals Club and some of the things that happened in there. But nothing can really prepare you for some of the stuff that you encounter through your RAF career, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, what's the one thing that you'd wish you'd known when you started your career? It can be about Scopies if you want, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. What's
the one thing you wish you'd known when you started your career?
You learn your biggest lessons the hardest way, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I don't even know whether we've ever spoken about this. I mean, it was such a long time ago. We probably did. I don't know whether we did. But the reason I was down the bunker was because I was on a formal warning for an incident that had happened in PSF. I'll always maintain my innocence, but you learn who you can trust, and you learn to cover your own arse. Now, right. I can only guess that Scopies are masters of this, but to me as a clerk, I
was shit at it.
Or just didn't give a crap.
I was always caught. I think a little bit of both. Yeah.
It was a big eye opener to me. People who I thought I could trust, right, all of a sudden just faded away. So yeah, that taught me a big life lesson.
Right. Okay.
You know, it did me the world of good in some ways, because I think you can be, you even 12 years into my RAF career as it was then, I was probably still a bit naive. I thought the world was a pretty decent place. And when something happens that you didn't do, and you still go down the route and get formally warned, you're like, well, yeah, maybe life isn't as rosy as I thought. But like I say, you learn the bigger lessons through something like that. Made me a different person, better or not, that's for other people to decide. But yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
I don't know whether you knew that.
It rings a bell, but I can't remember what I can't remember. It doesn't ring enough of a bell for me to remember what it was about.
Yeah.
And you might not want to discuss that, but it's a very good lesson, because I was in a number of those situations myself, and like I say, I was quite often, at the heart of something, but it only took one or two occasions for me to become known as the one that ended up always being the go-to.
Can't imagine.
Maybe. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. It's not about me. This is your show. Wait, listen. Have you come up with any of those names yet? You're not going to kick it into the high grass any longer.
So the very first unit I was posted to, was RAF Valley, straight out of trade training as an admin clerk, into the central registry at Valley. There was me. There was, it was an old style central registry, no bigger than a bedroom, dominated by different sections post, cubby holes. And my corporal was a guy called Gary Owen. Now, everybody seems much older then. I was 18, all of a sudden in the wilds of, I was nearly in Dublin. Let's face it. I couldn't have been further away from Grimsby, where I naively thought I was going to be posted somewhere on the East Coast, and there I was, as far west as you could get. And Gary Owen was just an incredible old-style corporal who would give you a clip round the ear, but like as an 18-year-old, he would take me to the bookies at lunchtime, and we'd go for a pint in the pub. I mean, this was like, what the fuck is this? I'd come literally the day before I'd left my block at RAF Hereford, as it was then, and there I was in the pub with this guy who seemed about 50 years old. I mean, he was probably only 30, 32, but to me, he was this proper fucking grown-up man,
Live the life.
And it was just, and it was like a really, really faster than I thought. I obviously knew I was going on to my first RAF station, but I had no idea what an RAF station was, and this was my introduction to it. And I always think back to it and think, he could have just, I could have gone off to the junior ranks mess at lunchtime and not known anybody because I'd just arrived. But there was this guy who had no business to take me with him at lunchtime, but he wanted to, and he was just one of those old school guys who knew everybody, knew everything there was to know about the job, and he couldn't. Admin clerks then did 18 months at their first unit, went back to Hereford, did some more training because we needed it, and then went on to our next unit. So that early introduction of somebody who wanted to actually look after you and make you grow up a bit was really good. So all the way back to my first camp really was Gary Owen, a legend. After that, well, I'll skip the middle one, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but what you are up to is fucking incredible, young man. I mean, your books, I mean, where did you get a book? Where did you do a book from? I mean, where did that come from? That book was brilliant, and I think, obviously there's real, you pay real homage to your trade and the areas you've been and where you've grown up and stuff like that, but great book. And watching what you're doing with Force Forward and, your JFDI, and you're an inspiration, mate. And I'm not just saying it, fucking hell. I mean, I think back to when we were going to gigs in London, and I'm not going to say the type of guy you were then, because you were always you. Mm. But if you'd have said to me then, this is what I'm going to be doing in 20 years' time, I'd be like, fuck off, don't be stupid. I mean, there was always the poet. There was always the poet in you, but I never saw a book like that in you, and what you're doing now in you. That just wasn't something I could foresee at that time. So you're one of the three,
mate. That means an awful lot to me. Thank you very much indeed. And I wasn't. I think you know me better. I wasn't fishing. I'm genuinely.
No, you were. You asked me to say this before we came on air. No, but it's true. It's true, and I'm not going to, don't smoke up your ass. Whatever. It's true. So let's move on, and I'll think about the middle one. I can't think of anybody at the moment.
Well, listen, it's a great time to move on to the last song, because I've got two more questions to ask, but I think they're all interlinked here anyway. So your last song is a song by this band.
Yes.
Your favourite song, I know.
Yes.
Come back to what you know.
Yeah.
Embrace.
Yeah. There's certain songs that, you know, we all remember a time where the Radio 1 breakfast show was like everybody listened to it. Didn't matter whether it was Chris Evans, Chris Moyles, whoever. And I got introduced to this. So the very first time I did Wimbledon as a service steward, I was in a car with, and this was during the High Wycombe days, with Lenny Brayshaw, PTI,
Yes.
Tom Bowler from the Comsen, and I think it was a policeman. I can't remember his name, but anyway, there was the four of us in the car traveling to Wimbledon every day, and that was the track. When I'd never heard of Embrace before. I know it wasn't their first single, but God, it affected me just in a this is amazing. And then obviously you listen to the album and it's just one of many amazing songs on that album.
Yeah.
But, you introduced me to them live. And I remember one particular gig was the Hanover Grand in just off Piccadilly Circus, Leicester Square, Piccadilly Circus. And the album had only been released that day, and we were stood right at the front, not drinking many beers because they were fucking expensive in there.
I still remember.
There was that DJ basically playing old soul music. Can you remember?
Yes.
And we were stood right next to him.
Yeah.
No support. That was the support act, if you like. And then they came on, and we were both amazed because the album had only come out that day, and there was the diehard fans who knew every word of every new song. But every time we've been to see them, mate, you know what you said about Prince at the start. Some people love him, some people hate him. Embrace, to us, are a very underrated group. And I think if people saw them live, they would have a totally different understanding. My wife hates Embrace. She calls it elevator music. But she's never seen them live. How terrible.
I know.
How rude.
Very disrespectful.
I know. But yeah, I mean, we've had some great times at Embrace gigs. Remember going to see them, what was it, one night in Edinburgh, the following night in Glasgow, or the other way around. And it was just seeing the same people in the pubs beforehand, real diehard fans. And then I had there was a TV program on the early days of BT Sport when it first came out. And I can't remember the name of the presenter, but it was basically a live studio thing. And all about football, but it had a group on every week. And
was that Tim?
We found out. Say again.
Was that a Tim Lovejoy thing?
No, it was. He's one of these guys who do the interviews with the footballers when when the match is finished. Can't remember his name.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was a live program, and Embrace were on that night. A little bit of a funny story was, it was in the BT Sports studios at the time. Were in the Olympic Village. I think they still are.
Yeah.
By the Copper Box Arena.
Yeah.
And I went with another clerk who was at MOD. And you got the tube to Stratford, and then you met a minibus on the outskirts of the Westfield shopping centre. And there was me and Ben, the other guy I'm talking about, waiting at this bus stop to be picked up by this minibus. And as a guy comes up, we get talking to him. Ben's talking to him like he knows him. And I didn't have a clue who this bloke was. So we gets in the minibus, and I thought, well, I'll start talking to him because I've not talked to him at all yet. And I said, oh, what's your name? And he said, Paul. And I said, all right. I said, are you going to watch Embrace like we are on this show? And he goes, "No, I'm on the show." Oh, okay. He goes, "Yeah. He said, I'm Paul Sinner."
Right.
Okay. He goes, "Yeah, I'm on the Chase." I'm like, "I work for a living. I've never seen the Chase." But obviously, my mate Ben had not worked for a living and had seen the Chase. And yeah, so he was on the program that night. But when we got there, our band was there warming up, and I got the chance to meet our heroes. And yeah, great night. But to see them in such a small, I mean, they were literally crammed into the corner of this studio, and after some of the places we'd seen them in, and the anthems that we're used to them playing live, it was a bit of a different experience to see them like that.
Yeah.
But
They are fantastic live, and
yeah.
so as fantastic as they are live, who is, or let me ask you in this way, what's the best live experience?
Mate.
Knew I was going to ask you this, didn't you?
It's so difficult. I mean, can I?
Yeah, you can. It's your show.
Look, I mean, we touched on it before we came on air. I was lucky enough to see Oasis at Earl's Court. One of the loudest concerts I've ever been to in my life. For an indoor concert, for the to be that, anybody who's been to a gig at Earl's Court will know just how immense it is. And to have over 20,000 people in an indoor venue like that is phenomenal. And you could argue, looking back now, that they were at the height of their powers. It was just before Nebworth. Yeah, I mean, that was special. Seeing Arctic Monkeys in very small venues in Paris, stood next to Jarvis Cocker, who lived next door to the small concert venue they were playing. Seeing Prince with you at the 21 Nights at the O2, and then going to the after party, somehow making our way back to Barnet where me and Hayley were living. Mate, there's many, seeing the Jam live, seeing Adam and the Ants live, seeing Frankie Goes to Hollywood live. I mean, they were incredible. What a worldwide phenomenon they were, that, when we think back all those years. I've seen some pretty amazing concerts. Deacon Blue live were incredible. I mean, luckily, just before lockdown here. What are you doing?
You too?
Can I just say, the last concert I saw before lockdown was Liam Gallagher here in Brussels. And I don't know whether any of you have seen him live out of Oasis, but fucking hell. I mean, nobody's going to accuse him of being the world's best singer, but for somebody who can command a stage and command you to look at him and be fascinated by what he's doing, and just the fact that just before he comes on stage, outblasts "I Am the Resurrection." What a night that was. But I mean, thank you for reminding me. Well, some people won't say lucky, but I was lucky to see U2 on their Joshua Tree tour, the original Joshua Tree tour, and then went to Twickenham to see them on the 30th anniversary of it, pretty much to the day. But that was a spiritual experience. I just don't remember much about it, because I think some gigs just pass you by, even though you want to remember every single thing about them. But I just remember turning around at the start of every song, virtually in tears, because it was affecting me that much, thinking back to seeing them at Wembley Stadium when I was 20. Amazing experience. But again, that goes back to what we were saying about the powerful, memories that music can bring back, especially when you see a group live. I don't. You can't explain it to somebody who's never been to a gig. Can't.
Yeah.
It's impossible to explain it,
Right.
especially when you've had absinthe on the way to see an Ash.
That was Brixton Academy.
I'll never forgive you for that.
That must have been not long after I came back from Prague. Or was it? No, it must have been. It must have been around that time, because I've not drunk that very often. Yeah, I do remember that though. Oh, what a terrible, horrible drink.
Yeah, that's a great pub in Brixton, though.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's still a venue that I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to go to so many times.
Oh, yeah.
Based down there, because the bands that I've seen in Brixton Academy, from obviously Charlatans and Brace, but then, like Ash, I think I saw Echo and the Bunnymen there as well. I think I saw the Stereo MCs there. Karen will remind me of plenty more, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's just a venue.
It's a brilliant venue.
It's just one of those venues, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah,
I've never been to anywhere better for a concert. It's just the slightly sloping. No seats, slightly sloping, good view wherever you are.
Yeah,
great place.
Yeah, and it just the sound just reverberates. It's great acoustics in there as well. It's wonderful.
Brilliant.
So
we've had some good nights in there, haven't we?
Yeah, oh yes, absolutely. Good nights in there, good nights before. And whilst one of the memorable Embrace gigs there was at Shepherd's Bush. Because the Empire's kind of quite an iconic sort of gig venue as well. But for me, Brixton Academy any day of the week over Shepherd's Bush Empire.
Without a doubt.
Any day of the week over there.
Yeah, so, without a doubt.
Listen, we've done all your songs. I've asked you most one more question to ask, because I don't ask this to everybody, but I'm going to ask this just at the end here, because it's one you can answer in any way that you like. We call this the JFDI podcast, and I'm still thinking about what you said. Your very, very kind words. And a lot of what I've been doing, if you'd have said to me back in the day, I'd be doing this, I would have said fuck off as well. But it's all been about getting to a point in life where I've kind of gone, well, if not now, when? It's about, for me, it was really taking for a number of reasons. And, tonight is not the night because it's your night. But getting to the point in life where it's like, you know what, really thinking about what's important to me in my life. I want to do the stuff that I love.
Yeah.
And that approach of just fucking doing it. If it makes you happy, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
If there's to be a void in your life in any way, then fill it with something. Go and try something. Go and do something. So that my final question to you is, how do you apply your JFDI in your life?
This is quite a personal thing, really, but I guess this is what this is all about in some ways. There was a reason me and Hayley couldn't have children. I won't go into that, but probably, even though I'd been in the Air Force and done pretty well, considering I'd been formally warned, we realised the only way we could have a child, have Connor, was to have IVF, and so we did. It was just like, let's just do it. Let's just do it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and it did. And it's incredible.
Right.
And you think back to the process, and it's not the sexiest process in the world. I don't think I have to go into any detail as to how it happens. But, but that's probably the most defining moment in my life where you make a decision and you just go for it.
Yeah.
It's scary after that, because then it just becomes a normal pregnancy, and and all the things that can happen. But
Yeah,
incredible. That's what springs to mind straight away when I've applied what you talk about, or we
yeah.
applied.
And you're absolutely right. Yes, things get scary, but look at what lies out the other side of it. And in your case, the most beautiful, amazing little boy.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, um,
yeah, exactly.
and that's the thing. That's the whole point of it. Is
Yeah,
of course things get scary, but just like we've said about some of the the most valuable lessons that you learn in your life, you're never going to learn anything if you stay comfortable for your entire life.
exactly,
So
mate.
you got to just push yourself and get uncomfortable and make yourself feel difficult. Because here's the thing: if we don't make our life difficult for ourselves in a way that is going to drive us, other things will come and make our life difficult for us and challenges anyway. And
Exactly. Yeah,
the only difference is, this way we get to choose what it is that that makes us uncomfortable. Because if we don't choose, like you say, somebody else will come along and make your life fucking difficult for you.
exactly. No, that's
You know,
very, very true.
and I have plenty of experience of that. And yes, okay, perhaps I brought most of it on myself, but I think it's why I'm here now. But what a lovely, do you know what? I think that's the most beautiful, I guess, answer to that question that I've had, because applying your JFDI by going out and saying, do you know what? This is the only way we're going to have a kid.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now, wow, Connor, brilliant.
No, exactly, mate. Yeah, we could have just let it ride, but I certainly wasn't getting any younger. And yeah, you know that Haley's 10 years younger than me.
Yeah,
It was a clear, simple choice. But you've still
right,
got to make that choice and go for it.
exactly.
You know.
Listen, we've got just one comment there. Look, another one of my favourite phrases: "Leap of faith." Good on you, fella.
Yeah.
Stephen.
Thanks, Stephen.
Yes. Neil, thank you very much indeed for coming on, for sharing not just the songs but the experiences, and some wonderful, wonderful stories there. I've had a really enjoyable evening.
Me too, mate.
We'll say goodbye to our listeners, our watchers tonight. But if you would like to hang around in the green room for 5-10 minutes, then we can have a banter,
I'll
if you
be
like.
there.
Because there is something that I've got to tell you that will make you laugh.
Cool.
But I'm not telling these guys. Right. Neil, thank you very much indeed. Let's have
thanks.
through. We had Dave Large, Stephen Manning, Mo, Gary Homewood on listening tonight. Gary, Neil, I don't know if you know Gary Homewood. I don't even know if he's still watching, and I don't know if I told him this. I'm not sure whether he's bought my book or not, but he makes an appearance in my book, and I bet he doesn't know that. We had the lovely Julie on tonight as well, and my own wonderful good lady wife. We had Mo. Oh yes, lots of people tuning in, and of course not forgetting Bob, and crikey, yeah. Everybody seems to have enjoyed themselves. I've had a great time.
It was really good, mate.
Right,
Really good.
thank you very much indeed. We'll speak to you next week, folks. When we're taking a bit of a different turn, but check the High G's website for the schedule. We've got some great guests coming up as well, and some non-ex-forces people going to be making an appearance as well. So tune in next week, same time, 8 p.m. for the GFDI podcast. We are out of here. See you later. Good night.